been the first in other positions that I've held, whether it be city attorney or the gaming control board. I definitely never want to be the last, and I want to get to a point, obviously, where there is no more first.
It's not lost on me that I'm the first Black female president for the NFL, and so that if I can make any type of change or be a good voice, a positive voice, or even a sounding board for the NFL, I'm happy to do that.
Here on Washington Post Live. I'm Robin Gavon, senior critic at large here at the Post, and thank you for joining me. My guest today is the president of the Las Vegas Raiders, Sandra Douglass Morgan. Sandra, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for the very warm welcome, Robin. It's truly a delight to be able to meet you and join you virtually for this wonderful series. I just wanted to quickly open and say that, there's certainly a cloud that's been hanging over the sporting world following the tragedy on the field this week. And I want to begin our conversation by sharing my prayers and well wishes for Damar Hamlin and his family. His life and well-being are obviously much, much bigger than football, and the outpouring of love and support we've seen from across the world reflects the true collective power of humans and of fans when we come together and uplift not only Damar and his family, but each other during these challenging moments. And on behalf of Raider Nation and Mark Davis, Coach McDaniels, and our entire Raiders family, we're just praying for his swift and full recovery.
Thank you so much for starting with that. I mean, I think that you've captured the sentiment of so many people. And, I wanted to ask you about that news and really to just get a sense of whether or not how you felt the team, the league has handled this. I mean, I know there was some criticism about the time that it took before that game was actually canceled on Monday. And I'm just wondering how you feel about the way that it has been handled thus far.
Obviously what happened was unprecedented. To happen actually on live television on a Monday night game with so many people watching, and I think that the NFL and the Bills and the Bengals handled it as well as could be expected, considering the fact that it is something that hasn't happened before. And I think it's a testament to the commitment, obviously, to the players' health and safety, that obviously the games were canceled, not only for Damar, but also for the players that witnessed this happen. So I think they handled it incredibly well, considering the circumstances.
My colleague Candace Buckner has a really thoughtful column today in which she sort of comments that this was, a moment when obviously, football fans paused and reflected. And she really raises an interesting question about the kind of language that the culture uses to talk about football specifically. Oftentimes quite hyperbolic language about every game being a battle, a war, dire circumstances. How do you think the league will move forward after this? I mean, do you think it will have an impact? And how do you sort of deal with also the timing of moving forward, of getting back on the field?
The league and you may have seen some comments about, for that to happen, where it happened and when it happened, it was going to be one of the places where there were the most medical professionals and physicians and people that have been trained and go through constant briefings and updates on the most up-to-date kind of medical practices and health and safety practices. I am not on the football side, if you will. I kind of the president of all the business operations, but I know that we have top-notch medical physicians and consultants, not only at the Raiders, but throughout the NFL. With respect to the comments about the kind of hyperbolic comments that are made, look, these are all professional athletes, and that's well beyond football. They are competitive And there are obviously games where winning does count and matter to be able to get to these championships. And so I don't think that type of rhetoric is limited to the NFL. I definitely think it's broad and would cover basketball, hockey, volleyball, and every other sport as well.
I know that you are, the wife of a former NFL player. You have kids who you have said love sports. I mean, do you let them play football? Do they play football?
Yes, my son did play football. He chose not to this year by choice, but he may decide to play football again next year. He's a teenager, and I think that, well, I shouldn't say I think, I know that there's always constant improvement to ensure player safety, and I think the players that are playing today are definitely in a better position, again, with physicians and technology, to make the game as safe as possible.
Well, I would love to talk a bit about your background. I mean, in many ways, you are over prepared for this position. I mean, you could clearly have done a multitude of things in the next chapter of your career. I'm curious, other than being a fan of the game, why did you want this job?
There was definitely a personal element. I grew up in Las Vegas. I've lived here ever since I was 2 years old. I've seen this city grow and transform into something that it simply wasn't when I was growing up. My father retired at Nellis Air Force Base. That's how my family ended up in Las Vegas. Probably around 400,000 people when I was growing up, now to well over 2 million, and welcoming obviously 40 million visitors. And so I'm an attorney by trade, but obviously the gaming industry is incredibly important and has been to the state of Nevada and the city of Las Vegas. And so when the Raiders announced that they were contemplating even coming, I knew, honestly, being a wife of an NFL athlete as well, what types of economic development and opportunities having a professional sports team, especially like the Raiders, could do for Southern Nevada. So I was already a fan, but to now have the opportunity to lead this team, and after meeting Mark Davis and getting to know more about him and him being able to and be willing to kind of recount stories about his father and the Raiders' legacy, I knew this was going to be a great fit for me because of their commitment not only to equity and inclusion, but also to the community. So it was almost like I never say it was a dream come true, because growing up in Las Vegas, it wasn't even a dream of mine because we did not have professional sports due to concerns about gambling. But it is a place I can tell you that I would never rather be anywhere else. It's been an incredible opportunity for me to kind of understand and learn from those at the Raiders, not just the history, but the sports industry and how that industry is growing and changing, and bringing my skill set, not only in law, but from the entertainment industry and just general business and management as well. It's been a wild ride last 5 months, but it's been great and incredible, and I'm really thankful for the people here.
Well, I also understand that you also had an interest in journalism, and that Connie Chung was a bit of an idol of yours. So, out of somewhat selfish a desire, I'm curious if there's anything about that interest that informs the work that you do today.
I think being able to see a woman of color in such a esteemed position, knowing that when I was a child, there wasn't obviously a lot of cable news, and we ate dinner wherever we were, and we watched Connie Chung. And my mother is a Korean American, and just said, you know what, she is respected. She speaks well. She is educated, and millions of people listen to her every night to be informed. And so being that conduit, I think, from, knowing news around the world and going into people's homes and reaching people of all different backgrounds, was something that my mother obviously had a lot of great pride in, and impressed upon my sister and I to do that. It's funny, my sister actually also, she actually majored though in technical journalism, and now she's a professor at Columbia University. So I think we both listened to our mother, wanted to make her proud, as many children do, but ended up kind of going on different paths.
And I won't say that that reflects in any way on journalism, that both of you decided not to go down that road.
I took a constitutional law class in undergrad, and we in college we all take courses maybe that doesn't really strike a passion, but I remember taking that class and I thought, okay, this is something I definitely want to learn more about, and wanted to dig in a little bit further, and that's when I decided to go to law school.
Well, I mean, at this point, you're one of there's only two other women who are currently team presidents. One, the Carolina Panthers, and the other, Buffalo Bills. I mean, how have you navigated? I mean, what do you feel your responsibilities really are being in this overwhelmingly male-dominated field?
Well, first and foremost, it's my responsibility within the organization to show leadership and be able to give support to the wonderful employees in the Raiders organization, men and women, black and white, and everything in between. That's important. Christy Coleman and I really have enjoyed talking to her, and I'm looking forward to getting to know her better. You know, we've often shared some kind of stories and comments about our different journeys to get to where we are. She's an incredible person, incredible leader as well, and I know she
And
has
I
the
should
support.
just interject that she's with the Carolina Panthers.
She's with the Carolina Panthers, yes. You know, it's interesting at my first owners meeting with the NFL, you kind of spot each other from across the room, and she's been so incredibly gracious, welcoming me, as well as many, many other presidents. But obviously, Christy and I, you know, have that bond, being, you know, two female presidents as well. You know, there's a responsibility, I think, not only within the organization, but also externally. And I've personally had to kind of push myself to realize that, you know, those Connie Chung moments for me as a child, you know, could be someone's moments for another little girl or a teenager, or even maybe an adult woman seeing me in the position that I'm in now, and realizing that, you know, people do. It's helpful to see someone in that position to know this is an opportunity, this is a possibility for me. And so I, of course, want to always hold not only myself, but the Raiders to a very high standard, to make sure that we are being great, not only role models, but, you know, other people that children and people can look up to and know that they're proud to be affiliated with this organization.
Yeah, and in the same way that, you mentioned that you admired Connie Chung, but you didn't necessarily, go into broadcast journalism. I mean, do you see your groundbreaking position there as being something that could connect with young people regardless of their interest in football or regardless of their interest in sports?
Absolutely. I think it just comes down to leadership and being able to try something maybe that hasn't necessarily been done in the past. You know, it was probably my first or second week with the Raiders, and I'm still even, you know, learning people's names within the organization and what everyone's roles are. And we had an event at the stadium, and it was for some of our season ticket holders. And there was a gentleman there with his wife and his two children. He said he was a season ticket holder back in Oakland and came to Las Vegas. And he said, you know, he always brings the family around, but for the first time, his daughter said, "Hey, I can be the president and my brother can play for the team." And both of his, you know, he and his wife kind of just stopped, and he let me know that was something, you know, that really resonated with him, that, you know, they knew that they were lifelong Raider fans, but now it was something that kind of brought their daughter along. And it was honestly something that made me really just kind of stop and really reflect on the importance not only of, you know, Mark Davis putting his entrust in me to have this position, but how it would have an impact, hopefully a positive impact, on women, girls, and everyone, even fathers, brothers, and uncles, you know, to allow women to be able to see that there's so much more possibility than maybe in those positions and roles that we've traditionally had in the past.
I mean, one of the big issues that has been part of the conversation, particularly within sports, is the issue of equal pay equity. I mean, how are you thinking about what should happen next in regards to pay equity? And just sort of on a personal note, I'm curious about how you thought about that issue when you were yourself stepping into this role and we're again, breaking new ground.
It's important that everyone, and especially women, take the position to be able to advocate for themselves and know their worth and know that the value that they bring into organizations, and be able to speak confidently about what they're doing to improve these organizations, because we've all done it all the time. But it's about advocating for yourself and letting people and in your supervisors or your company CEOs or presidents know, again, the value that you're bringing to the organization. I have been lucky, honestly, to be a part of an organization that knows the value of pay equity. Mark Davis is the owner of the Raiders, and his family has owned the Raiders for a very long time, and he has been very public, not just with respect to the Raiders, because he owns the Las Vegas Aces, kind of making groundbreaking statements about, making sure that the Aces head coach is paid appropriately, and that their players are as well. That may have been received, different ways depending on who you are, but he has not been shy about saying those comments. And so I have not had to deal with those struggles internally at the Raiders, because I have an owner, and we have an owner at the Raiders that believes that pay equity is incredibly important. For me, as I kind of gone through my professional journey, it's been about being, direct, respectful, but direct into what value I bring in the organization. And so if someone had a position before me, I would say, I need to be paid at or more than that person, or have the same kind of or similar benefit packages, obviously that would kind of conform to my skill set and the responsibilities and duties that I would bring to the organization. So pay equity for me it's clear. And also, I think the benefit of being in Las Vegas has made it not as most of the population in the gaming industry are covered under collective bargaining agreements. And we have great laws here in Nevada with regard to pay equity and employment laws in Nevada. And so, for us, because a lot of the positions here are covered that way, I think we're a little bit ahead maybe than other jurisdictions with respect to pay equity.
Are there still things that the industry can learn from, for example, the gains that women have made in women's soccer?
I think there's always room for people to learn. I mean, we're going to constantly have to evolve, and we as people need to be open to know that there's no point in time where anyone is going to know it all. I have been very open with the team here and saying, for our game day experience, they're incredibly talented. They have everything broken down to the second. I've never done that before, but I know I'm going to trust and learn even on people who work for me. Right? We're all working on the same team. We're all working to make sure that the Raiders are going to be the best team in the National Football League. And so we have to lean on people and clearly want to learn and adapt and learn new things, whether it be technological advances or new fan engagement opportunities. Or learning more about pay equity and the benefits that it brings to teams and to communities and fans. I'm always going to have an open door to my team and my employees and encourage them to bring recommendations and best practices. But we as people have to be open to learn and try new things and see what's benefiting our fan engagements and our communities as a whole.
I mean, you mentioned the Raider fans, and they have a long, somewhat complicated history. And just recently, there was a video of a particularly aggressive Raider fan heckling a Patriots fan, and you responded to that Patriots fan. You stepped in and reached out to that person. I mean, why was that important for you to do? And what did you think when you saw that Raiders fans' passion turn a bit toxic?
Yeah. Robin, we're in a day and age where anything can be taped at any time. And at Allegiant Stadium, we really pride ourselves on having a voice. There's always a voice of the fan survey, and we want to be the best with respect to customer service, whether it be to ingress, egress, food and beverage, and the entire stadium experience. And part of that obviously includes being in a fun, yes, competitive and passionate environment. That's what we're here to provide the fans, along with obviously a great football experience as well. And the post that went viral on social was a snapshot in time of an interaction between fans. And we obviously have cameras and footage of everything. But what I saw when I saw that snapshot was someone who had an incredibly being calm and composed, and a fan that, violated someone else's personal space, if you will. And so we all have, and I'm sure every other stadium does, but we definitely do it at Allegiant Stadium, a fan code of conduct and a policy on how people need to conduct themselves. And that's reminded when you receive emails with regard to how you can kind of enter Allegiant Stadium, what the expectations are. That goes with the limitations of the bags and different things you can bring in. And there's always going to be a fan code of conduct. And so when I saw that video, I just wanted to ensure that people knew that Allegiant Stadium is going to be a fun and exciting place to go, that you can kind of still be able to enjoy your personal space, enjoy a game. Fans do get fun and rowdy and passionate, and we welcome up, of course, in Las Vegas, fans from all over the world to enjoy the great amenities at the stadium. But I just felt that it was important that, one, people knew that this wasn't going to be his last experience at the stadium, and that I was aware of the conduct that took place.
That last part, the fact that you wanted people to know that you were aware, I mean, that also seems to be of a piece with something that you said that you like to do on a regular basis, which is to just walk the stadium and greet the staff, from your closest assistants and advisors to the janitorial staff. Like, why is that sort of symbolic walkthrough important?
I don't even know if it's necessarily symbolic. For me personally, it's just the right thing to do. And it's not just at the stadium, but it's at our headquarters as well. We employ thousands of people, whether it be part-timers for game day or events and concerts. And I think it's important for people to see, well, let me rephrase that. It's important to me that people who work for the Raiders organization understand that I am available, accessible, and around, and see them and value them for the work that they're doing every day to make this organization the best organization in the world. As I was coming up in my career, that was something that I valued. I have, we've all had different supervisors or employers with different character traits. And I always said that there was no such thing as a good boss or a bad boss, but someone that you could either learn from. You could learn from by saying that's a trait that I want when I get to a certain position to emulate, or that I would never treat people that I work with that way. So for me, also in this position, I'm still getting to know people. But even when we're in an organization where there are a lot of people that work here, but it's not enough. So many that I won't be able to learn everyone's name and know and understand a little bit about them. This is you've heard, well, Mark Davis has said, it's a family. It's a tough family. It is a tough business with a lot of passionate fans and a lot of passionate people. But we have to get to know each other. And I think when you get to know each other, you'll show a little more grace and respect for each other. And I think that overall creates a better work environment.
I mean, you came into the Raiders business at a time in the aftermath of a bit of tumult and turnover, and also just within the industry more broadly. I mean, there have been issues related to sort of toxic masculinity and sexism, racism, all these different things. I mean, how are you working through those issues? And I'm curious if you think that there is something particular to the football culture that cultivates some of these negative attitudes, or if it's just football is part of the broader culture, and so it's all there.
Robin, that is an interesting question. I knew coming in, and I was very open when I was announced to be the president of the Raiders, that I knew coming in that there were going to be challenges within the organization, and I wouldn't have accepted the position if it wasn't for Mark Davis's really just open and honest statement to me, saying if there's an issue here, we're going to fix it. And being able to have that support was incredibly important for me to even take the position. I've been an attorney for 20 years. I've I was the city attorney for a city that unfortunately almost had a foreclosure on every block during the recession, and had to make some really difficult decisions, including negotiating with police and fire and Teamsters unions to make sure that we could get to a point to provide basic services to the city. Police and fire and even some other industries, very male dominated, correct? So that was a difficult negotiation, but we got through to do what was best, again, for the city. Before I came over to the Raiders, I was the chair of the Gaming Control Board and had a lot of wonderful goals and people to make sure that the gaming industry was going to continue to be able to modernize, to attract new customers. And then the pandemic hit. And we had to close our doors to 40 million visitors from across the globe in a very, very short time frame, and also reopen them in a safe way where people knew that they could come to Las Vegas and Nevada and still have that same hospitality experience. Again, a challenging environment, and also with gaming being very male dominated as well. And so what I've learned from those experiences is I think it's important to be an open and honest leader. I think that women in these positions have an opportunity to be true ethical catalysts to saying, look, we can do a good job. We can have fun on game days or in the gaming floor and make sure that we're building that excitement and also treat people with dignity and respect. When I was chair of the Gaming Control Board, we also passed regulations that would ensure that gaming licensees could have their license and be subject to discipline if there were any type of discrimination, whether it be racial, gender, sexual identity, or gender identity, orientation, or religion. And I think that was really important because the gaming industry, similar to the sports industry, has fans and customers of every single background and also employees as well. And so when I moved into this position at the Raiders, yes, I knew there were challenges, but I do think that with football, we see the young men on the field that are obviously competing at the highest level to win a game. The people behind the scenes, whether it be behind the scenes on the football side or in business operations, also are from every single background. And I'm really proud of the amount of women that we have at the Raiders, not only in leadership levels, but throughout the organization. So it's important to make sure that we are going to hold everyone accountable, not only to comply with policies and best practices, but also treating people with dignity and respect. And that is something that I plan to bring to the Raiders and continue to kind of just reinforce with everyone that I interact with here.
When you say to hold accountable, what does that mean to you?
That we are going to do our jobs, and whether it be as someone in game day entertainment or someone in finance or human resources or on the in our Raider Image retail stores, and to do it effectively and to be able to continue to perform at very high levels to make sure that we're making the Raiders organization and our shields very proud, but doing so in a way that would not obviously violate any laws or policies that we have at the Raiders, and holding people to a higher standard, but making sure that if they're not, it's ultimately my responsibility to hold people accountable. But if they're not performing and treating other people with respect and making sure that they're representing the Raiders or in the proper way, then obviously that there will be consequences.
Well, we only have a couple minutes left, and I thought we could end with a question from our audience. And it's from Christopher Nelson, and who's from Maryland, who would like to know, what is the best piece of management advice that you've ever received?
To listen. It's incredibly important to listen to the people around you. I think when you get to management, it's easy to just obviously we base our decisions based on our own prior lived experiences and things that we've either seen or kind of learned from other people. But it's really important, I think, to listen to the people that you are leading. They're the ones that are really on the ground doing the work every day and seeing the changes and getting the responses, whether it be from customers or from their colleagues. So for me, it's really important to listen and to be decisive.
I'm curious, do you recall who gave you that advice? It almost sounds somewhat parental.
I think it was my first firm, partner at my first firm, and said, we have two ears and one mouth for a reason. It was really in the context of also, when you're advocating for your client and whether it be a deposition or just working with other people, you're so focused on what you want to say and what message you want to get out that you have to listen to the people that you're talking to see how they will receive that message. So that was great advice from him.
Well, I think that's a perfect note to end on. And I would just like to say thank you so much, Sandra Douglass Morgan, for joining us today. And to thank you all for joining us as well. And for more information about upcoming interviews, please go to WashingtonPostLive.com to register, and you'll find lots more about upcoming programs. I'm Robin Gavon for the Washington Post. Thank you again so much.